Number 10. Iron Age Idol. In Ireland, archaeologists have found one of the creepiest and most mysterious ancient objects in the whole country. The object in question was recovered from a bog and has been dated at 1600 years old. It's a wooden sculpture about 8 feet tall, created from the split trunk of an oak tree. The sculpture was made to look kind of like a human figure, with a very small head and a bunch of random notches carved into its body. Additionally, the mysterious object was found with more mysterious objects such as animal bones and a dagger that was likely used in rituals. Right now, the strange object is being called the Gertnakrana Idol. That's a mouthful, we know, but that's just what they decided to call it. It's the largest of its kind ever found in Ireland. According to Eve Campbell, an archaeologist working closely with trying to identify this bizarre creation, it was probably made to look like some sort of pagan deity. However, experts don't know what deity the idol was really supposed to look like or why it ended up being buried alongside a ritualistic dagger and a heap of animal remains. Some experts believe it may have been a substitute for a human in a creepy ritual. The weird idol is being held at University College Dublin and will later be put on display at the National Museum of Ireland. Number 9. Beach Mystery. A mysterious object has been found on an Australian beach and nobody is really sure what the heck it is. The object looked like some kind of metal ball, partly hidden beneath the sand. It was about 3 feet wide and way too heavy to have been moved by the ocean currents. It definitely would have sunk. An excavator pulled the metal object out of the sand, but there was nothing on it that gave any clues as to where it came from or what it was used for. A few months later, things got really creepy when the exact same mysterious object reappeared on a different beach in Australia, this time off the north coast. A man named Ken Miles was on the beach in the morning when he came across the bizarre object. This time, the orb was connected to a long black piece of plastic wrapped up in a fishing net. It appeared to be very old. While most people couldn't figure out the mystery, a fishing expert named Barry Cooter believes he knows what the object is. He thinks it's an FAD, or a fish aggregating device. It's used for fishing in the middle of the ocean, along with dozens of others like it, casting a massive net that poaches thousands of fish at the same time. Cooter and a few other people consider the object to be a type of destructive system of the oceans. Number 8. The Orb from Space. Our next mysterious object comes all the way from the year 1897, when it was discovered in Binghamton. It was the month of November when something that looked like a great ball of fire fell out of the sky above New York. A man named Jeremiah McDonald witnessed the flaming ball from his window. He watched where the fiery orb hit the ground and went to investigate early the next day. So far as the story goes, when he came to the place where the fireball had landed, he discovered a spherical metal object that, even though it had landed the night before, was still piping hot. He had to pour water on it for a few seconds before he was even able to touch it. Then he brought it to his office and broke the sphere open. Inside the sphere was a triangular object with curious markings on its surface. To this day, nobody knows what the triangular object was. At the time, McDonald thought he had found a piece of technology from another world. It obviously wasn't a meteorite since it was metal and marked with strange symbols. We don't know what happened to the object in the end or where it is now. And as for McDonald, he went on to open his own medicine business, claiming to somehow be able to cure all the different ailments of the day. What do you think the strange object that dropped from the sky was? Why was it so hot? Where did it go? Is this story even real? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 7. Ancient Coin. A little girl has discovered a mysterious gold coin in northern Israel, near the Sea of Galilee, during a scavenger hunt game at the ancient Jewish community of Chorazim. The bronze coin is a bit of a mystery, but it is believed to date back at least 1,500 years. According to the Israeli Nature and Parks Authority, the family of the little girl was visiting the archaeological park in the ancient village when the child literally just picked the coin up off the ground. She was extremely lucky, as this is a once-in-a-lifetime kind of find. The ancient bronze coin goes back to at least around the 4th century AD, at a time when this village was in its prime. Nobody knows who minted it, or even what was once depicted on it, because the coin has been so terribly rusted through the years. The child handed it over to park officials, who labeled it a national treasure and will be sending it off to archaeologists to try and figure out just where the coin came from. Discoveries like these make us wonder if there have been numerous ancient objects like this discovered over the years, only to be discarded as if it's nothing. Next time you see something shiny on the ground, pick it up. It might not be trash. It could be a long-lost item of awesome historical value. Number 6. Object in the sky. A mysterious object has been found in a rather unexpected place, hovering in the sky. In July of this year, 2021, 2 airplanes flying through Canadian airspace reported just last week that they saw a strange, bright green object swooping through the clouds in front of them. One of the planes was a military unit that actually had to swerve to avoid the large object, which is being labeled as a literal UFO. The other airplane that saw the object was a commercial aircraft, but they both saw it at the same time over the Gulf of St. Lawrence along the Atlantic coast. What's truly amazing about the sighting is that the pilots had not been in contact with one another, and yet they still described the object in the exact same way. And since one was military, we know the mysterious object obviously has nothing to do with the army. So what was it? That's a really good question. According to the report in the Aviation Incident Database, the green flying object penetrated a cloud and then vanished just as quickly as it had appeared and was not seen again. The pilots agree that it could have been a meteorite, but then again, it was kind of going the wrong way. Meteorites don't usually enter the atmosphere, turn 90 degrees through a cloud, and go back out into space. Number 5. An old pistachio. A very old pistachio nut has been found in Britain. While not that mysterious, it is still kind of a weird object. It was also found in a weird place at the bottom of an ancient well in North Yorkshire. A nut in a well? Well, that's definitely out of place. Archaeologists were excavating the area when they discovered the nut, which they have dated as 2,000 years old. It's currently the oldest nut ever found in Britain. Experts are saying that the nut was picked off a tree sometime around 24 AD. The archaeologists actually had to crack the nut open just to see what kind it was. It turned out to be a pistachio, which had been imported to Italy in the late 30s. So this nut probably came from either Greece or North Africa. Though the experts have no idea how on earth a nut from thousands of miles away made it to the bottom of an English well 2,000 years ago. That part is the real mystery. You must be nuts if you don't think this discovery is at least a little interesting. Number 4. Golden object. For almost 6 months, a mysterious gold object stumped the experts over at the Israel Antiquities Authority. Head of the Robbery Prevention Unit, Amir Ganor, told NBC News that the object is unlike anything he has ever seen before. It was found half a year ago by a maintenance worker who noticed something shiny sticking out of the dirt at a cemetery in Jerusalem. The cemetery is an important archaeological site in the city in which the remains of the people from the Roman, Byzantine, and Crusader eras have been uncovered. The object was dug out of the dirt and found to be 19 pounds. The maintenance worker who dug it up thought at first it was a deadly bomb and immediately phoned the bomb squad unit, who carried out a controlled explosion to get rid of the thing. But the blast didn't even damage it. So then the object was handed over to eager archaeologists. They took x-rays, they did their investigating, and they came up with nothing. The object is coated in 24-karat gold and is completely solid. In the end, it was an Italian guy who solved the mystery. He recognized the object as something called an Isis beamer, created by a German company as an object to provide energy protection for people who deal with healing energies. It turned out to not even be that old. Somebody probably put it in the dirt of someone's grave to give them positive energy in the afterlife. Imagine the look on everyone's face who worked extremely hard to make sure the ancient gold object didn't explode, only to find out it was actually something more modern and positive. How often do you think that happens? Number 3. Mysterious explosive. A mysterious object found in Pakistan turned deadly when a woman was killed and 7 other people were injured following the discovery of a strange object taken out of a local river. The object was discovered by a shepherd who took the thing home, only to have it explode on him. I guess this thing is very different from the thing in the previous listing. The object was described as looking like a balloon, but it turned out to be some kind of mysterious explosive. Nobody knows exactly what happened. The curious object was inert, then all of a sudden, it blew up. The authorities collected pieces of the debris to try and identify the bizarre object, which was probably some kind of forgotten mine or bomb. However, no identification has been made yet, and the 7 injured people are lucky to be alive after the devastating explosion. Number 2. Moon Mass. A mysterious object has been found on the moon, or rather, underneath the largest crater on the moon. The object is an unknown mass identified by researchers at Baylor University. This is no small object either, as researchers claim that the unknown anomaly is at least 5 times bigger than the largest island in Hawaii. That is massive! It's hiding beneath the South Pole Aitken Basin, the largest crater on the moon that you can't actually see because it's on the moon's dark side. From what scientists have been able to put together so far, they believe the mysterious object could be a huge hunk of metal left behind roughly 4 billion years before today by an asteroid that smacked into the moon and formed a crater. That is one huge piece of metal. It's also quite deep, around 186 miles beneath the surface of the moon. It's true that scientists don't know exactly what it is, but they have guessed that the mass is most likely composed of iron and nickel. Do you have any other theories on what it could be? Let us know in the comments. Number 1. Creepy Doll. The Little Miss No-Name doll was designed by Hasbro in the 1960s as an anti-Barbie. Hasbro had thought that the doll, which to be quite honest is ugly and horrifying, would sell extremely well because it would speak to an audience that wasn't into Barbies. She has huge, creepy eyes, tangled hair, and a rather disturbing frown. She was supposed to represent an impoverished child instead of a glamorous one. However, the doll did not go over well at all, and she was pulled from the store shelves almost immediately after being put there. Today, this terrifying doll is a collector's item. Unopened dolls sell for upwards of $1,000. One of them was just spotted for sale online in Damariscotta, Maine. However, almost as soon as the ad went up, it was taken down. We don't know if someone was trying to sell their creepy, haunted doll and then decided against giving such a horrifying object to a stranger, or if someone actually bought the disturbing thing. Either way, this is arguably the creepiest doll still around in the US today, even more horrifying to look at than the real Annabelle doll. Would you dare keep a creepy doll like this in your house?
Number 10. Sabratha. Sabratha was once the great empire of Carthage. Its ruins can be found in modern Libya. The Carthaginians established this place as a trading post and turned it into a prosperous settlement somewhere around the 4th century BC. It had a natural harbor, and it was one of the most important stops for trans-Saharan caravans moving goods through the region. Sabratha enjoyed a brief period of independence following the destruction and fall of Carthage in the year 146 BC. The Romans incorporated it into their empire, and they were living the good life for quite some time. Everyone was prosperous. Money was flowing. But then disaster struck in 365 AD, when the city was sacked by the Austriani. Following this incident, the city began to rapidly decline in just about every way. It was revived briefly thanks to the Byzantines, though like many of the great cities throughout northern Africa and the Middle East, following the Arab conquests, Sabratha finally ceased to exist. It was simply wiped off the map. This was around the year 643 AD. As for what kind of archaeological discoveries have been made at the site, there hasn't been too much. Archaeologists have excavated about half of the ancient city so far, including many buildings along the harbor, a huge residential district from the 2nd century, and a heap of Roman buildings like baths and temples. They also found a few Christian remains, including a mysterious catacomb and 4 Christian churches. Number 9. Datong Hanging Monastery. The Datong Hanging Monastery is one of the most impressive archaeological sites anywhere in China. It's located just 40 miles from downtown Datong City and is suspended 150 feet above the ground. This is a legit hanging monastery. The buildings have withstood strong winds and storms for centuries. Archaeologists say this place is an architectural wonder and a unique advancement in mechanical theory. When it was built, crossbeams were inserted into the rock and used as foundations, with the rock itself acting as support. From the ground, it looks like a castle nailed to the side of the cliffs. Even today, this is one of the favorite archaeological sites of construction experts who come to see the bizarre mixture of mechanical invention and Buddhist temple. Within the monastery itself, there are incredible monuments to Buddhism, Confucianism, and even Taoism. There are sculptures of Confucius, at least 40 halls and cabinets, and around 80 sculptures made from a variety of material, from copper to stone. The reason the monastery was built on the side of the cliffs was probably to shield it from floods. Plus, the mountain has protected it from natural elements all these years. It was built in the year 491 and has survived an incredible 1400 years. Both the Ming Dynasty and the Qing Dynasty, from between 1368 and 1911, have continued to maintain this amazing piece of history. Number 8. Ido Jiri Ruins. The Ido Jiri Ruins can be found near the town of Fujimi in the Chubu region of Japan. The ruins here come from the mid-Jomon period, between 2500 and 1500 BC. The area is actually riddled with broken settlements from this era, most of them at an elevation of around 3,000 feet, and made habitable by plentiful spring water draining down the hills to the Fuji River. There are at least 50 ruins in the immediate area surrounding the site. However, Ido Jiri is arguably the most impressive. It has been excavated repeatedly since it was discovered in 1949. So far, archaeologists have found evidence of at least 200 pit dwellings, along with plenty of artifacts from the Jomon culture, such as pottery decorated with abstract patterns, the heads of mysterious animals, and strange-looking people. There have also been tools discovered, like stone axes and dishes, that had likely been used for cooking and processing nuts and acorns. As for the pit dwellings, the ancient Japanese were basically hobbits. They dug massive pits in the ground and then built walls and roofs of straw. This way, their houses were half submerged in the earth, with small doorways leading to the outside. Almost 5,000 years ago, this would have been one of the biggest villages anywhere in Japan, dotted by hundreds of unique hobbit holes. Number 7. Göbekli Tepe. There is no archaeological site on Earth quite as impressive as Göbekli Tepe. It was built by prehistoric people 6,000 years before the stones were cut in England to shape Stonehenge. It's located on a mountaintop in Turkey and was first excavated by German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt just about 25 years ago. Schmidt discovered over 20 stone enclosures with a massive monument in the center of the site that had elaborately carved pillars that stood over 15 feet tall. The pillars were stylized with human figures, and each one weighed around 10 tons. Considering this was literally 6,000 years before Stonehenge, which itself was 5,000 years before today. How on earth they managed to carve and transport such giant blocks of stone has baffled archaeologists for a long time. It's even more impressive because these people hadn't figured out how to write words. They didn't know how to domesticate animals, and they hadn't even invented pottery. Forget about metal tools, they didn't exist. Yet somehow, even without metal, this mysterious race of people crafted one of the most exciting monumental structures anywhere in the ancient world. Some say Göbekli Tepe is the oldest temple ever built, though not a single scientist has any clue what the people were using the temple for, if they're worshipping strange gods or praising the sun. But after 3 decades of research, Schmidt is convinced that Göbekli Tepe was built by hunter-gatherers, a massive group of them who had come together from all over the region to help build the remarkable structure. This was probably the first major step in human civilization to becoming, well, human civilization. The only issue is that scientists can't say why. Do you have any theories about how Göbekli Tepe was built? Let us know in the comments below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Canyons of the Ancients. The Canyons of the Ancients is an outdoor museum in the United States that is home to roughly 6,000 individual archaeological sites. It spans 176,000 acres and is one of the biggest concentrations of historic treasures anywhere in the country. Despite this, almost nobody knows the Canyons of the Ancients exists. But just what kind of archaeological sites are here? They are preserved remains from the native cultures that lived in the area, including broken houses, disused shrines, and entire villages that were abandoned hundreds of years ago. All these structures can be dated back to the Puebloans. They first began building small, simplistic structures, but eventually wound up with a whole city spreading out through the desert. However, the Puebloans didn't leave behind any written accounts of who they were or what they did, and they vanished mysteriously in the middle of the 1100s and moved away. Scientists and archaeologists are both clueless as to where these mysterious people went after, or what became of them. But some believe they most likely went into Arizona and New Mexico. Number 5. Lost City of the Apostles. In 2017, excavations along the shore of the Sea of Galilee may have revealed evidence of the ancient lost city of the Apostles. The city is called Bethsaida, and archaeologists have been looking for it for centuries. It is said to be the home of 3 of Jesus' apostles, Andrew, Peter, and Philip. It was also the city of Jesus' ministry, when Jesus allegedly fed 5,000 people with just 5 loaves of bread and a pair of fish. He did so near the city of Bethsaida, but even though the city is mentioned so frequently in the Bible, nobody knew where it was in ancient times. The ruins were never found. This all changed about 30 years ago though, when archaeologists identified the site of Et Tel as the city of Bethsaida. But the identification has always been a little controversial, and now experts have changed their minds and decided that Bethsaida is actually located at the site of El Araj. According to historians from the 1st century, in the year 31, the son of Herod the Great transformed the small fishing village of Bethsaida into a Roman settlement. Walls were built around the city, and its history more or less became lost between the Romans and the Byzantines. Archaeologists have now uncovered Roman pottery, Byzantine relics, and enough proof to say that this was indeed the famous fishing village from the Bible. But of course, there's no real way for them to know if Jesus' apostles truly did live there. What do you think? Number 4. Dry Creek. The Dry Creek archaeological site in Alaska shows human occupation going back about 11,000 years. The site can be found near Healy, and it has several layers of history hidden beneath the soil. It's one of the only places in Alaska where arrowheads have been found. Stone technology was used here around the year 9000 BC, with archaeologists uncovering over 3,500 artifacts, many of them being stone flakes broken off of stone tools. It is considered one of the most important places for archaeologists studying the transition at the end of the most recent ice age, when humans truly began to emerge as a nomadic species. Number 3. Yeha. Yeha is an archaeological site that dates back to the Bronze Age, located just a few miles from the town of Adwa in Ethiopia. It is considered the most impressive archaeological ruin anywhere in the Horn of Africa, showing evidence that the people who lived here had contact with places as far away as South Arabia. Archaeologists believe Yeha was one of the main cities that came right before the powerful Aksumite civilization. There are a few main structures still remaining in this ancient city today. There's the Great Temple of Yeha, the Grat Be'al Gebri, and a mysterious cemetery riddled with rock-cut tombs. The Great Temple was built to worship the moon god of the Saba kingdom, constructed probably in the 7th century BC. It stood 46 feet tall and was made of massive blocks fit together without the use of mortar, which scientists say is how the remains have stayed so well preserved over the past 2,600 years. The tombs are found about 8 feet below the surface, accessible only by vertical shafts dug into the ground. When the tombs were first made, the entrances were blocked by massive stone panels, and then covered over by stone and rubble. It's not clear who exactly was buried in these impressive tombs, but they were likely the most important members of the society at the time. The society, though, is a little mysterious. They likely evolved into the Oxumites, but this has never been proven. There have only been a handful of stone slabs found with inscriptions on them, not enough to fully detail the history of these curious people. Number 2. Tomb of Qin Shi Huangdi. The tomb of King Shi Huangdi, the first great emperor of China, is a massive mausoleum complex in the Shanxi province. It was constructed by the order of Qi Shi Huang himself, who was the founder of the Qing dynasty. This guy was responsible for shaping China into the ancient powerhouse it became. He unified the country. He helped build the Great Wall of China, and he introduced a national road system. He also reformed Chinese politics to incorporate every Chinese state into his own personal empire. But what a lot of people don't know is that the emperor was obsessed with immortality and throughout his reign sought to find the elixir of life. He feared his own death and sent men to all corners of the globes in hopes of finding the secret of everlasting life. That dream died with him in the year 210 BC, when he drank an elixir meant to be a magical potion but was probably just mercury. His elixir of mortality ended up killing him. His mausoleum is most well known for its terracotta warriors. There are about 8,000 of them that were discovered underneath a giant mound of earth shaped like a pyramid. He was buried with a formidable army that would protect him in the afterlife. But that's not all. There is also an underground palace, a massive tomb chamber, and much of the mausoleum still remains unexplored. The terracotta warriors have been dug out for everyone to see, but the physical tomb of the emperor himself is still sealed, and his body is probably still resting inside. Number 1. Bula Regia. The Roman ruins of Bula Regia in Tunisia are pretty fantastic. This place began life as an ancient Berber settlement thousands of years ago. In 156 BC, it was founded by the first Numidian king and named Massinissa. This was part of the Berbers' homeland, at least until it was captured by Carthage and turned into a Punic town around the 3rd century BC. The Roman Empire defeated Carthage during the Punic Wars and took control of the city. It was made a free city by Julius Caesar. Then, under the rule of Hadrian, was turned into a Roman colony. Archaeologists have made some amazing discoveries here, such as inscriptions in stone that suggest the inhabitants used to worship Baal Hammon, the greatest god in Carthage myth. The people here used to bury their dead in giant jars. The temple of a fertility goddess was found surprisingly intact, and archaeologists found evidence that the people here used to build houses with basements meant to protect them from the intense heat of the sun. These basements have been found in amazing states of preservation because when an earthquake destroyed the city during Byzantine rule, the upper stories collapsed and sealed the basements, leaving them protected from the elements and raiders. They were found in modern times just as they would have looked like at the time they were ruined.
Number 10. Göbekli Tepe and Aboriginal Australians. There have been some recent claims made on a mysterious pillar in Turkey that dates back 12,000 years. Australian Aboriginal symbols were found etched upon its surface. The unusual coincidence has to do with images and symbols from both these ancient cultures, which realistically should have never met each other. And yet, some of the same symbols that have been found in Aboriginal Australia have also been discovered in Göbekli Tepe, what scientists say is the oldest monumental structure in the world. The big question is, how did it happen? First, let's take a look at one of the symbols that have been found in both cultures. In Australia, shamanistic medicine men often have a symbol painted on their chest. It looks like two U's touching tip to tip with a single line separating them. This exact same symbol is what archaeologists have found at Göbekli Tepe. It looks exactly the same. It is a little bit too unique to be a coincidence. But here's the thing, the timeline doesn't really add up. The symbols at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey were carved 12,000 years ago, while the symbol painted on the Aboriginal man's chest came to light just a few hundred years ago. How the Australians could have come up with the same symbol without ever seeing it on Göbekli Tepe is a mystery, unless of course it was somehow passed through generations, or unless the people who built Göbekli Tepe later found themselves sailing in wooden canoes to Australia. Number 9. Dolmans. A dolmen is a large stone built out of a few standing slabs positioned upright with the top slab supported as a roof. It's kind of a crude rock chamber that is usually surrounded by humps of earth to form an artificial hill. These are almost always burial monuments, what some call funerary markers. All across the world, the dolmens were built during Neolithic times, but no one knows why. They are all thousands of years old. They've been found in Korea, India, Europe, and Africa. They also always look the same. 2 or 3 rocks standing vertically and one huge slab on the top. In Korea alone, there are an estimated 35,000 dolmens. In India, researchers have found about 50, and throughout Europe, dolmens have been found dating all the way back to before the Stonehenge was built. So, what's the coincidence? The coincidence is that people from Neolithic times built the same stone structures to mark places where dead people had been buried without ever meeting each other. How did they all come up with the exact same idea? Even more mysterious is why did Korea make more than anyone else? The dolmens found in Korea make up about 40% of the total dolmens found across the world. They seem to be the ones who really ran with the idea. Though the oldest dolmen ever found dates back 7,000 years ago and was found in Western Europe, scientists don't know how so many different cultures around the world built the same thing for the exact same reason, or who came up with the idea in the first place, making them even more mysterious. Number 8. Bog Bodies. There's a strange historical coincidence that happened all over Europe. It has to do with people dumping the bodies of the dead into swamps and bogs. These are known today as bog bodies, and they've been found throughout much of Europe, from Denmark to Britain. Some of the bog bodies were killed before the Common Era, like the Ido girl, who was found deep in a swamp in the Netherlands back in 1897. She had died at the young age of 16, somewhere around 170 BC. She had also died of strangulation, and she had knife wounds all over her body, suggesting that she'd been stabbed multiple times. And here comes the second part of the coincidence. Regardless of where the bog bodies were found, they all seem to have been brutally killed. They were almost always stabbed multiple times in the heart and abdomen, and they were usually hanged after the fact. Fragments of rope are often found still around their necks. One of the oldest bog bodies comes from Denmark. He is known as the Kolbjerg Man, and he died 8,000 years ago. The body is so old that only a skull and a few bones were found, and it's unclear what his cause of death was. In any case, people have been ruthlessly murdered and then buried in bogs all across the continent for thousands of years, and scientists are stumped as to why. Dozens have been found in Ireland. Many have been found in England, and there appears to be no relation between them. The only connection being the harsh ways they were killed and then dumped in the swamp. Number 7. Peruvian Pyramids. Not everyone knows this, but at the same time the Egyptians were building their great pyramids, there was a civilization on the other side of the world in Peru also building pyramids. On the coast of Peru, there is a sacred city called Caralsupe, and it boasts a very impressive complex of ancient pyramids that were constructed around the year 2600 BC. This was actually before the Great Pyramid of Giza was ever built. Archaeologists consider the sacred Peruvian city the most complex urban center that was ever built by an ancient culture in the Western Hemisphere. The site is about 1,500 acres, only 125 miles from the modern capital of Lima. How many pyramids does it have? It has 6. It also has plazas, huge staircases, desert terraces, and heaps of ancient artifacts. The largest pyramid of them all is called Piramide Mayor, and it stands around 100 feet tall. The base of it covers 4 football fields. Radiocarbon dating places the pyramid at being 5,000 years old. According to History.com, that's the same age, if not a bit older, as the Step Pyramid recently found in Saqqara, the oldest pyramid anywhere in Egypt. So who got the idea first? Did the Egyptians make pyramids first, or was it the ancient Peruvians? Or did both of these cultures get the idea from an outside influence? Perhaps from outer space? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below, and if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe buttons if you haven't already. Number 6. Init Mummies. In 1972, 8 mummies were discovered in a rather unexpected place. These were not Egyptian mummies, they were Inuit mummies, specifically Kilakitsok mummies from Greenland. The corpses discovered are 500 years old and so perfectly preserved that they look better than just about any mummy ever found in Egypt. They weren't wrapped up in bandages, but were still wearing furs and clothing. They also still have their hair, their skin, and even their fingernails. 6 of the mummies were adults, and 2 were young Inuit children. They were found near an abandoned Inuit cemetery in the northwest of Greenland. They were probably simple farmers, and unlike mummies found in other parts of the world, they had probably been preserved by accident. It's doubtful that the Inuit were trying to copy the Egyptians, but the amazing natural mummification is still a little coincidental. Ironically, if the Inuit had not intended on mummifying their dead, they still did a better job than the Egyptians thanks to the sub-zero temperatures on the Greenland Peninsula. The corpses were basically freeze-dried. Tattoos can still be seen on their skin, and their organs are still in such good shape that scientists were able to look inside and see their last meals. Number 5. The Cho Meridian. The Cho Meridian is an axis that runs north to south that some claim was used by the ancient Puebloans to mark where they would build their most impressive settlements. The meridian at this point is theoretical, but there is a significant amount of proof to back up the claims. The theory was first developed by archaeologist Stephen H. Lexon, who said the Puebloans built their great sites on the meridian on purpose, constructing them all on the exact same line of longitude. The meridian represents some kind of ceremonial connection between the places, though nobody can say what exactly that connection is. You might even recognize some of these sites found on the Cho Meridian, from Aztec ruins to the Chaco Canyon site and even Casas Grandes in northern Mexico. Oh, and even the Bighorn Medicine Wheel is on this meridian. These sites are all quite similar and all built by the same people, but one of the biggest mysteries is trying to figure out not only how they managed to locate the meridian to keep all their important sites on it, but also why it was so important to do so. It's not like these guys had a compass that they could use to stay aligned, and they couldn't just walk in a straight line. This is desert territory, flanked by high mountains that would have made it impossible to connect all their sites in a perfectly straight line all the way from the American Southwest down into Mexico. Nonetheless, nearly a dozen of the most important archaeological sites in the region are connected in one straight line. Number 4. The Curse of Tutankhamun. You may have heard of the Curse of Tutankhamun before. The curse originated in 1922 when Howard Carter discovered the tomb of the boy pharaoh, sparking a wave of interest in ancient Egypt that would last for years. Before Howard opened the tomb, he was warned that all those involved in the project would meet unfortunate ends. They would all be cursed if they dared set foot inside the sacred resting place. Well, a lot of these people did die after, but was it really an ancient Egyptian curse or just bad luck and coincidence? The guy who financed the expedition, Lord Carnarvon, died 6 months after the tomb was discovered. He got bit by a mosquito while cruising down the Nile River. Then that mosquito bite got infected and he passed away. But he was not the only person to experience misfortune. According to historical records, at least 13 deaths have been attributed to the curse, including archaeologist Hugh Evelyn White, who was found dead by hanging in 1924 with a note written in blood that said, "I have succumbed to a curse which forces me to disappear." An Egyptologist close to Carnarvon, Aaron Ember, died in a house fire in 1926. Despite having more than enough time to escape, he went back into the flames to get the manuscript of a book he was working on, called the Egyptian Book of the Dead. Are all these deaths simply a coincidence, or is the curse real? What do you think? Let us know in the comments below. Number 3. Dead presidents. One of the weirdest coincidences in American history has to do with dying presidents. On July 4th, 1831, the 5th President of the United States of America, James Monroe, died. This was remarkable because Thomas Jefferson and John Adams had also both died suddenly on July 4th, 1826. The first two died on the exact same day, and James Monroe followed shortly after on July 4th yet again. Was it a coincidence that 3 of the founding fathers died on the exact same day, on the Independence Day anniversary? At this time, it was serious news. After all, 3 out of the 4 presidents had so far died on Independence Day. It almost seemed like a nationalist scheme to make the Americans more patriotic. Even today, some people claim it was all some kind of weird setup, while others give a more logical reason. They say that because the presidents were so old and in such poor health, they had actually been holding on to life and waited for Independence Day. Only then did they let go. Number 2. Aliens in Sardinia. Strange megaliths found on Sardinia, Italy may be the evidence we've been waiting for that ancient aliens did indeed visit our planet. Sardinia is located just off the mainland of Italy. Today it's a playground for the ultra-rich, but 2,000 years ago, it was home to some very strange and mysterious people. There are still ruins on Sardinia of megalithic structures, a pyramid with uncertain origins, and remnants of the Nuragic culture. Let's start with some bizarre artifacts found in 1974. During an archaeological dig, researchers uncovered 5,000 broken fragments from figurines that either depicted the Nuragic people or a race of super beings that they interacted with. The figures stand roughly 8 feet tall and have eyes like robots. They also have disproportionate bodies that definitely do not seem human. There have been comparisons made to the figurines found in Sardinia, linking them with the carvings of the Anunnaki found in Mesopotamia. The Anunnaki are allegedly a race of space aliens that came down to Earth thousands of years ago and basically brought humans out of the Stone Age. But did aliens really visit Sardinia? One of the weird things is that the giant figurines found here are unique and unlike anything else in Europe. The only things that come close to them were found in Mesopotamia, which Sardinia most likely didn't have any contact with. Number 1. The speed of light. The Great Pyramid of Giza has a weird connection to the stars. The fact that the Egyptians built the pyramid isn't really that shocking. All they did was carve some rocks and stack them together. Yes, it was significantly more complicated than that, but it wasn't so complicated that the Egyptians couldn't figure it out. So the coincidence here is that the decimal coordinates for the Great Pyramid match up with the speed of light, suggesting that the pyramid is literally aligned with the universe. The latitude of the pyramid in decimal degrees is approximately 29.9792458. The speed of light within a vacuum is expressed by the metric system as 299,792,458. As you can see, the numbers match up perfectly, which can't possibly be a coincidence. But then again, back when the pyramid was constructed, Egyptians had no idea that light traveled at all. The first time the speed of light was estimated was in 1676. This leaves the question of how could the Egyptians possibly have known? And of course, why bother going through all that trouble to make the pyramid match the speed of light? Thanks for watching. Which one of these coincidences do you find the most bizarre? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit the subscribe button and come back soon for more awesome videos. See you next time. Bye!